We are not our brain. You have an immaterial mind, soul, spirit that's not physical, that is interfaced by God's design, knit to your body, and the brain is the organ that is in service of the mind. Okay, the mind is not material. The brain is the organ that operates in service of the mind. So even if it turns out that our brain is operating something like a neural net, that's not the thinker. Your mind is the thinker. It's just interfacing with the brain to get your body to do stuff, okay? In the end, this large language model is nothing more than a what word might come next algorithm, which is exactly what your phone did. What word might come next? That's all it is. It's just doing it better. And that's why it will never do what we do when we speak, because humans are not just, oh, what word might come next? Most humans are not. Yeah?
Sometimes I'll start a sentence and I don't even know where it's going. I just hope I find it along the way. Like an improv conversation. Improvisation.
That's exactly what a large language model is.
Sometimes.
Nope, sorry. Okay, so I'm going to give you 3 analogies. It can be hard to get across to people who aren't familiar with computer science and large language models and neural nets, how this works. So I find that analogies are helpful. I'm going to give you a few analogies to help you think about what's actually happening in a large language model. In a neural net. And that's the guts behind a large language model or behind these image generation generative AIs. The first analogy is this, and I got this from someone else. It's very good, I think. A trained neural net is like a compressed picture, a compressed photograph. You've heard of, when you have pictures, they have a little extension on them. It's like .jpg or .tiff or .png. Those are the file type. And an extension like .tiff is it's called a non-lossy compression, which means anybody use everyone's taking pictures with their phones, but anybody have a digital SLR camera? If you have a digital SLR, what's the large file that you can save that has absolutely all the information? It's called a RAW file, right? It takes all the raw information, and it might be 10 megs or 12 megs. It's a big file. And when you're passing something around, you don't usually want to send a 10 meg file, so you do a compressed version. There's 2 ways to compress, broadly speaking. One is to compress without loss of information. That's non-lossy compression. The other is to compress much smaller by chucking some of the information. So a JPEG is a lossy compression. And you may have seen examples of this. So here's the guy who made this analogy. He's got a great video on how large language models work. These were trained on a huge chunk of text from the internet, about 10 terabytes of data, crunched on these GPUs for 12 days at the cost of millions of dollars. Okay, everyone's playing this game now, and it takes a huge amount of energy. That's why did you hear they're trying to get 3 Mile Island back online? Microsoft wants to get the nukes back online to power the training of the neural nets. So we live in crazy times. But you end up with your fully trained model is about 140 gigs. So that's like 100-fold compression. It's like 1% of the size of the whole space of data you put in. It gives you a package that's like 1% that size. So that's a very significant compression. It's still a large thing, but it has lost a lot of information necessarily. Let me show you what this looks like with images. So here's a picture, a photo of a semiconductor fabrication facility. And then I'm going to show you a compressed version of the same photo. Do you see? It's got the same features, but you've lost detail. And you've lost detail in order to make this a small file, okay? And that's going to be true whenever you compress something. You're going to lose information. So along with this analogy, we get this limitation. Fine or rare details get lost when you do this kind of compression. It won't be there. Don't expect ChatGPT to get careful details and nuances correct. So whenever although you can get good stuff from ChatGPT, I say you should always read it, and the person reading it and authorizing it to be used should know whether this is making sense or not, right? Because it will sometimes make mistakes. It's called hallucination. Okay, analogy 2. A trained neural net is like a well-worn path. So if you travel in Europe where you have like these, if you go to a very ancient building in Europe that has stone steps, sometimes a spiral staircase or large staircase in stone, you'll sometimes see steps that look like this. What's happened there? It's worn from use. So if you think of this as a histogram upside down, it's statistically telling you something. Where that lowest dip is, it's telling you what? More people have put their foot there than anywhere else. So this is a histogram recorded in stone, okay? And millions of people have used this staircase, and you can see the stone above it. There's 2 dips, which is telling you there's 2 places where more people have put their foot than anywhere else, and so on. It is a record, a historical record of average use. Now, suppose you knew, oh, my great-grandmother went up those stairs 75 years ago on this date. Would this wear pattern tell you how your grandmother stepped? No, it's not telling you how any individual did it. It's just telling you, on the whole, when people do this, this is what it looks like, roughly, okay? The handrail is doing the same thing in a slightly different way. What's the handrail telling us? It gets polished by use because you have the brass gets tarnished, and where people are running their hands, you rub off. Have you seen statues where it's like good luck? You can tell that people think it's good luck to rub this guy on his nose or something, and it'll be a statue and it's got a shiny nose. It's because people rub there. So this handrail is a record. It's recording average human use by showing you this is where people put their hands. This is not where people put their hands. And if you're only interested in kind of average, mainstream, standard ways of doing things, averages like this are a good way to do it. And that's really what a large language model, it's what all of these models, generative AI, are doing. They're ingesting a huge amount of actual human creative work and then processing it in a way that records what sort of standard wording or standard representation looks like. And that's why what it spits back at you is going to be very standard. It's not going to be remarkable. The thing about humans, give us anything to do and we'll find a non-standard way to do it. And that's kind of a hallmark of humanity, that you're going to get an inspired way of writing, an inspired way of playing basketball, an inspired way of going downstairs. Oh, why did that? Capture that in your histogram, okay? Okay, Dom Tomato. But that, I think, is a hallmark of humanity. Yes, most people don't do that. Please don't try that. Most people don't do that, but humans are made to push boundaries. Not all of us will push every boundary. We're made to find new ways to do things and to do things in totally creative and innovative ways. AIs can't do that because all they're doing is looking at how people usually go downstairs. It's not going to become Dom Tomato. Okay, analogy 3. A trained neural net is like a domino run, okay? You can see videos where you can watch dominoes falling for 15 minutes if you want, where rooms this big are filled with dominoes that people have set up, and very clever domino runs so that when they start cascading and going down, they do all kinds of things, and it's very noisy. It's fun to watch. Here's the thing about domino runs. They are entirely conceived and set up by humans. So while the thing is running, there's no decision being made, right? It's doing what you anticipated it would do when you set the thing up. It's not taking some new turn. It's not being innovative. The innovation was in how the humans set it up. When it's running, it's just running the way domino. It's just physics. Runs by nothing more than physical knock-on effects. And the outcome is completely determined by the setup and the trigger. So it's all set up, nothing happens. The trigger is me pushing over the first domino. And then all of this happens in a highly predictable way. Really, a large language model or all of these generative AIs are the same thing. They're just machines. It has been set up by humans. It's clever in the setup. It's been trained on human clever output. But once it's there and you have the trained neural net, you're just pushing the first domino. When you give it a prompt, you're pushing the dominoes, and it's trickling through and giving you the algorithmic answer. And that has a couple of limitations with it. All the ingenuity is in the setup, not the operation. And there's no ability to meet a new challenge creatively, okay? So in all of this, I want to stress, I'm not anti-AI at all. I think AI is going to have and already is clearly having lots of very helpful applications. But it's always going to be limited in what it can do. If you're asking for something to take over a role where you don't need a huge amount of innovation, where you're doing the same sort of thing over and over again with just minor change, then an AI might be a good solution. If you're doing something where you need to have someone who understands what's going on here and they need to think very creatively and outside the box, it's never going to work. And it's not that this version doesn't work and tomorrow they'll have a version that will work. It will never do that because it's not thinking. It's just a domino run, okay?